Hi there, we're cooking in the kitchen today from the Disney Parks cookbook, and according to the cookbook, this was Walt Disney's favorite meal, and I think it's still served in Disneyland, according to this anyway, it's in Disneyland. And I'll give you a couple seconds. What do you think Walt's favorite meal was? I'll show you some of my ingredients behind me in case it helps. All right, it's chili. So Walt's chili and beans is what it's called, and I will show you the picture that the cookbook has of it right there. So yeah, so we're making chili. I make chili a lot. It's something that I've actually done myself. Now, I tend to follow what is like a classic chili recipe, which means I make ground hamburger, usually a pound of ground hamburger, a pound of ground turkey. Then I have like tomato sauce, a couple cans of beans. Usually I do like a kidney bean and like a cannelli or like Great Northern bean, one of those kind of beans. You know, diced tomatoes I put in there. Usually I buy the canned diced tomatoes, chili, chili powder, cumin, all those kind of flavors. Obviously onion and pepper and stuff like that. So this kind of reminds me of it, but it is a little different than my own chili. Instead of a pound of ground beef and ground turkey, I actually have a pound of ground beef and some stew meat here. So that's a little bit different. So there's no ground turkey. I don't have any tomato juice or sauce per se, but I do have some diced tomatoes and some real tomatoes I'm gonna put in there. And this one only uses one can of beans. I usually use 2 in mine. So probably a little bit more meat heavy than what I'm used to, but which my husband will probably like. I tend to like the beans, so who knows. But anyway, we're about to get started on Walt's chili. All right, so right here I've got my stew meat kind of cooking in the pan. That's the first thing to go in. I'm supposed to saute and let this kind of brown and cook for about 10 minutes. And then I'll put it off aside into a dish where I do some other things before I add it back in. And I've got this dish here. I think I've shared this before. Love this dish. It keeps everything nice and warm while I'm doing other stuff. All right, so I think my stew beef is browned on all sides. So I'm going to put this in the container. All right, now that my onions and peppers and garlic and stuff are cooked, I'm going to add the ground beef. All right, the hamburger is nice and cooked, it looks like, nice and browned. Now it says that I can drain this for the excess fat. So I've got this little thing here. Shout out to my mom, she got this for me for Christmas this year. It's just this cute little pot that you can like kind of drain fat into, which is kind of nice. There's like a little strainer thing, so you can like, if anything big falls out that you want to recollect, you can do that. Try to tilt it at this angle so you can see. Now that that's done, we're gonna add some stuff back. We're gonna add the stew beef back, mix it in. And now I'm going to add, now I'm going to add all the spices. Now this one spice is cayenne pepper. And I'm adding it because we like kick, but I've made other chili recipes where they talk about cayenne pepper, and it is something that you can definitely skip out on if you don't want it too spicy, especially for little ones. Some tomatoes here. Now this is beef based. This is not something I've actually cooked with often, so I'm curious to see what kind of like flavor profile this adds to the chili. It's the last ingredients before I mix this all together really well, and that is water. So I'm gonna give this a good mix. One thing you may note, I didn't put the beans in yet. According to this, you don't put the beans in until about 10 minutes or so until you're ready to serve it. I'll probably do a little bit longer than that just because I like to make sure my beans are nice and cooked. I'm a little OCD about food and making sure that it's like cooked to proper temperatures and things like that. All right. Anyway, this is nice and cooked now. So what I'm going to do is let this come to a simmer and then let it simmer on my stovetop for a few hours. Review time for Walt's chili and beans, Walt's favorite dish, and it was a good dish. We really enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed the substitution of the stewed meat as opposed to having like another pound of hamburger or ground beef or, you know, ground turkey or something in the dish. It added some really nice texture and it was a nice little surprise. Had a few less ingredients than the classic chili that I use, but some other ones, and it had a really nice flavor profile. So yeah, I really did enjoy it. I think I'm a little more prone to the classic chili recipe I typically make, but I'll talk about that in the rankings and reviews, which we'll get started on that. The first is the ingredients on a scale of 1 to 5. I'm ranking these a 2, which a 2 means that everything is very simple and easy to find. It's not super expensive. There's a little bit more cost involved when you want to make chili as opposed to some other dishes out there, but everything was easy to find. And, you know, when you think about what you get for it too, it does make a lot. And it's also too as well because, you know, the stewed beef is a little bit more than just ground hamburg. And then there was a beef base you need to find. I didn't have a hard time finding it per se, like it was in my store, but I had to kind of like look a little bit for it because I was like, wait, where is this? And it's like the thing, I was like, okay, it's probably by the soups and, you know, that kind of stuff. Difficulty level on a scale of 1 to 5. And this is a 2, which means it's on the easy side. I didn't find this hard at all. You know, when I make my normal chili, I kind of put everything, saute it, and throw it in a crock pot and let it cook for 8 hours. This one, you know, there are a few steps involved with sauteing the meat and the other stuff. Then you add it, but then you let it just simmer on the stove. And this one simmers for 3 versus 8 hours. So this is a really good option, I think, too. Like if I want to make chili, but I don't want to commit the time to the 8-hour slow cooker, you know, especially like sometimes if I don't like leaving my house with my slow cooker on, you know, even though I've done it before, I don't like doing it. So if I'm looking for chili, want a faster grease recipe, I think this would be a good option to make instead of doing the traditional one. And that's where I'm going to get into while I make this again on a scale of 1 to 5. And 5 is absolutely, but this is a 4. So it means I will make it again, but I probably won't make it often as I will like my normal chili. But again, I think if I'm in a pinch and I want some chili and I want to make it in a shorter time frame, I think this is a good option. I also think it's a good option just to kind of mix up the chili a little bit that I'm used to if I wanted something a little bit different. But yeah, this is a good recipe and definitely one worth checking out.